Framework, investment disclosure, has paused some U.S. sales due to tariff uncertainty. On Wednesday, Framework announced a temporary pause on U.S. sales on some base Framework Laptop 13 models, specifically the Core Ultra 5 125H and Ryzen 5 7640U. Framework explained that even a 10% tariff would mean they are selling their lowest-end SKUs at a loss. Framework also paused all pre-orders for the Laptop 12, but have since unpaused all but the base models. And personally, I found this whole thing extremely interesting because we've been able to get, over the last couple of weeks, insight into the margin structures of these companies that we otherwise wouldn't have gotten.
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, when Logitech increased the price of that mouse, when Framework basically went, look, if we sell this thing, we're just going to be eating it on every unit we ship. It told us explicitly what the margins are on these products. And I got to say, I'm feeling a little validated because I've talked for years on this show, about how one of the biggest problems for the tech industry is that there is
margins are tight.
No margin in it.
I will admit, I knew that the margin on some components was really, 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 really low. I knew that things like cases, fans, it gets a little bit healthier. Power supply, a little bit healthier. I thought laptops had more.
The laptop industry is cutthroat.
Apparently.
Cutthroat.
I remember back when I worked at the Best of Buys selling laptops and stuff like that.
I heard they're the best.
They gotta be. It's in the name. I remember seeing the cost, because you could see the cost in your system, and it was always really close to the actual amount we were selling it for. But it was my understanding that through like spiffs, yep, kickbacks, other various things, MDF, it made it a lot better, and we just didn't see that amount because we were allowed to show the customer the cost. So I was like, the fact that we are allowed to do that means there's some play here somewhere.
However, what I can tell you is that invoiced cost may have very well been fairly accurate.
Yeah.
And they're going to be making a few more points on the back end, but the tech industry is really, really tight. Speakers and headphones are another example of categories where there's margin.
Yeah, but I think it's like if AirPods alone were split off, they're bigger than like Nike or something.
But like
crazy.
Like, why do you think that your manager was pushing you so hard to attach a printer?
Yeah.
Right, because there was margin in printers,
insurance or software or whatever
something
else.
For a bag. You could go and you could tell your super, I sold 100 computer systems today. They'd be like, get the fuck out, you know? Because they don't care.
Did you move attachments? Did you move
exactly? And it's not just Framework on the laptop side. Razer has taken down pricing and pre-order pages for their new blades. HP, Dell, and Lenovo have suspended shipments of notebooks and related products to the US for at least 2 weeks. Nintendo, we talked about this last week, suspended pre-orders of the Switch 2 in the US. I think it was since then, though. They have also, thanks a lot, suspended pre-orders of the Switch 2 in Canada. This is from, actually, I'm not sure who prepped this topic, but...
I feel like I've been spared in this situation.
Oh, yeah, because you weren't going to buy one at launch anyway. Yeah. You're going to wait till Willow Video has them, which Lord only knows when that'll happen now.
Which this might actually help in a weird turn of events. This might help places like Willow.
No, that could be true.
Weird turn of events, but it might.
Apparently, it is speculated, or I don't know if this is for sure, but apparently packaging for US and Canada happens near Seattle. So that could explain, if they're going into Seattle before they come up to Canada, then that would explain why Canada would be impacted.
Yep.
Approximately a third of Switch 2 production is happening in Vietnam, and Nintendo has started routing most of those consoles to the US to hopefully avoid the worst of the tariffs. Multiple automakers have also suspended shipments or orders to the US, and China, whose tariff on imports of US goods is now 125%, so going the other way, says that there is no point in raising their tariffs further because there is no longer any market acceptance for US goods exported to China. However, it is always worth noting that any statement from a Chinese official should probably be taken with a similar amount of salt to how salty Luke was before the show that I won Why Is WAN Late today.
Completely unfairly. He won Why Is WAN Late today while being late.
Well, at
It
least
genuinely makes no sense.
At least-
it is not fair to have a contest where the decider of the contest is on your payroll.
I think that it is not fair to park your car in a handicapped parking stall. You seem perfectly able-bodied to me.
I actually just was going so fast I didn't see the sign at all.
Which is a separate problem.
But you were still late. You were still late. I'm fine not winning. You should also lose. It's not about my victory. It is about your loss.
The China Semiconductor Industry Association published an urgent update today clarifying how the country of origin of semiconductor products is determined. For both packaged and unpackaged semiconductor products, the location where the wafer was processed is deemed to be the country of origin. And because China deems Taiwan to be part of its territory... Okay, hold on. That means that chips fabricated by TSMC, Micron, and other Taiwanese chip makers will be exempt from the 125% duty imposed on U.S. products. Okay, I thought this was working against them when I first read it, but actually they're using the technicality of, Taiwan is definitely us to justify not having to pay tariffs on TSMC fabricated goods. Sure, China.
I mean, that's really smart.
I guess.
And the U.S. tariffing Taiwan is like incredibly stupid.
By that logic, actually, I mean, shouldn't the U.S. basically say, well, since Canada is our 51st state anyway, there's no point in tariffing anything from Canada.
No, but the whole
because neither of them have annexed either of those countries yet. So
yeah.
America's
whole goal is continuing Canada's economic ruin so that they can try to like financially take us.
They
over.
do understand that Canadians are like not gonna like do that, right?
Yeah.
We're not just going to be like, oh yeah, economic victory, civ, whatever. Like, China does not rule out other forms of retaliation against the U.S., announcing that they are reducing the number of Hollywood films permitted to release and restricting import and export rights for a number of U.S. companies. Our discussion question here is move directly to next topic. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200.
As a technically partial owner of Framework, how do you feel about the impact on Framework's business and Framework's future based on this? I know that you said the only thing that would cause you to pull out was a change in their, like, I don't know what I'll call it, ideology, principles, sure.
Yeah.
This doesn't feel like that.
Oh, no.
At all.
Oh, yeah, no.
But how do you feel as a partial owner about the decision, the direction?
Really?
Their margin?
I got to be honest with you, and I'm sorry, Narav. I am way more concerned about my own margin and my own store right now. Yeah. Like, a Framework is cool, and literally every person that I've met there, like,
seems legit.
From CEO down, seems like awesome, like legitimately awesome. I was super impressed the first time that I met like a broader group of the team there, because literally everyone I spoke to, just like so quick, so focused on what they're doing. Like, they just seem like a super focused company. They have a great culture as far as I can tell from basically the outside. But they aren't my company.
Yeah.
And I'm rooting for their mission. I'm super excited for their mission. But I think that, you know, they have already opened a lot of eyes and there's a lot of momentum. So in terms of my goal of what I was trying to achieve with the investment, I think I've gotten a lot out of it already. I don't think this is going to kill them either.
No.
Like, I think it's a storm. It's a little storm, and I think they're going to weather it. It helps
that this is a storm that everyone's going through.
Yeah. Yeah. And realistically, you know, it's not that I don't empathize. I 100% empathize, but I've got to focus on keeping my ship upright right now.
This might be, you know, I think it would be very reasonable for someone to say that this is really stupid for me to bring up. But
okay, this is really stupid of you to bring up.
Nice, cool. I think it's interesting that software is dodging all of this.
Software is
because I'm wondering when that is going to flip, because a lot of America's exports is software.
Right.
And nobody's doing that right now.
Interesting. Yeah, it's only physical goods.
If you want to hurt them, They don't make that many physical goods that they export out. That's why they have all these trade deficits with these countries.
Yeah, I probably just wouldn't have brought it up. I don't know, dude.
But it's just really interesting. Now EU is on that. Okay, so somebody's working on it.
EU's on it. Okay.
So like that's going to become part of the equation, and then Floatplane is.
Avon Fox says, yeah, the U.S. has a huge surplus in entertainment media as well. Yeah. So China's already on that, allowing fewer films in China. They were already super restrictive, not to mention being super restrictive in terms of the content. I mean, when was the last time that we had like when was the last time we had a triad as a bad guy in a Hollywood film?
It's been a hot minute.
Yeah. A little bit.
I feel like it's like 90s, 80s.
Because basically, if you have like any Chinese funding, from what I understand, if you have like any Chinese funding in your film, which they have invested extremely heavily in, you pretty much have to follow China's censorship rules in America, which is,
but that's like control of the import. That's not even a tariff.
But yeah, I mean, they already block so much U.S. media anyway.
The digital landscape's going to get really weird if that happens, because we've never had to deal with this anywhere. It's been full free market forever.
I mean, no, there are,
as far as tariffs are concerned,
a lot of tariffs in the world as it is.
No, for digital stuff.
Oh, digital, yeah. No, that's a fair point. There's been a lot of conversation this week about moving electronics manufacturing back to the U.S., whether that's possible, and if it is, what that would look like. One phone company, Purism, says that their $800 phone will become $2,000 when made locally. In general, this is not related to Purism directly, materials would need to be sourced and imported or mined and refined at home. For instance, titanium, not found in America, and lithium, lots found in America, but only one active mine. And that's a really interesting part of the conversation that I think some folks are overlooking.
The time delay of getting more mines up and stuff?
Well, not just that. Sorry, yes, that. But also an element of this that, pun intended, that I think is fascinating is the number of people that look at the cost breakdown of something like, an iPhone or a Purism phone or whatever it is, and they go, okay, well, the labor cost for it was, X in Mexico or in China or Vietnam or whatever, and it's X times, whatever multiplier in America. So realistically, and we've seen this argument where I think it was McDonald's or someone was like complaining that if they increased the minimum wage by some amount, that it would dramatically increase their prices, but it turned out it didn't.
Well, yeah, because the whole Denmark thing, but anyway.
But here's the thing, right? Because at the end of the day, everything, not just the assembly, everything is impacted, is ultimately labor, right? A hunk of lithium, the price you pay for it, well,
it's got to come from somewhere.
You didn't pay the ground you took it out of.
Yeah.
You paid the people who extracted it. So if you actually were to, so these comparisons people are making are actually really apples to oranges, because they're looking at the sourcing of these raw materials that are being done by people who are being paid far less than Western wages, regardless of whether they're ethically sourced or whatever. It's still going to be a lot less than a Western wage. So the calculations, and Purism may be doing the math, right? I'm actually not sure, but I see comparisons that people are making that are like, oh, this won't be that big of a deal. Remember when McDonald's complained that the labor costs going up? Well, that's because all of their raw materials being produced by Western labor costs or whatever, that was already factored in. Whereas here they're not. Now, most rare earth metals are mined in America, but supply of these may not be enough to meet demand, at least not immediately. So new manufacturing sites would need to be built. A lot is manufactured in America already, but some companies have overseas manufacturing to supplement demand. For example, New Haven Display manufactures custom OLED screens in Illinois, but they also have manufacturing over in China. Actually, sorry, I'm going to totally go off in a different direction for a second. Do you see MrBeast comment about it? Oh, yeah, he was pretty upset because he was saying his Feastables bars are manufactured in the U.S., but the materials are coming from, he apparently, and look, this is all just based on his tweet.
How much like cocoa comes from the States?
He says he's working really hard to get like ethically sourced cocoa or whatever, but it's not from America. So if he gets tariffed on those imports, all of a sudden the whole business model makes no sense. And he's like, well, that could impact American jobs. Did anyone do that math?
Probably not. There's a lot of stuff like that. Like there's mattress companies and they have to get, is it like Dunlop latex. Like, I don't think any of that exists in the States. I could be wrong, but I don't think any of it does. But I believe they manufacture the mattresses up here. I don't remember what specific brand. But there's like interesting component stuff where it's like, yeah, not everything grows or exists in specifically the United States.
New supply lines will need to be implemented. Some manufacturing projects take so many resources and people and time that they essentially create small towns. I actually had never heard of this. One of Apple's biggest final assembly test and pack-out centers is in, and I'm going to butcher this, I'm sorry, Zhengzhou? Anyway, it's apparently called iPhone. It's kind of referred to as iPhone City. And the doc points out millions are employed in China by Apple alone. New truck and train routes will need to be figured out since materials and goods will have to move from one location to another still. This is going to take some time, and this may be a hot take depending on the audience that I'm talking to, but overall, I totally get what the US is doing. It is actually a terrible, terrible plan to have critical supplies completely owned, operated, and controlled by a country that you are essentially locked in a Cold War
Adversarial with, yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
I don't think there's a way to go about solving it.
But I'm not taking a position on that.
But yeah, I get that.
That wouldn't be very
sure.
Canadian of me.
Yeah, especially if it's like planes, boats, stuff like that.
100%. Yeah. And it's everything. It's microprocessors,
goes,
it's AI, it's critical minerals, it's everything, right?
There's like practically no ship manufacturing in the States anymore. It's like, yeah, that's... knowing how America feels about their boats, so that's maybe not a good thing.
So that's a really interesting dynamic in all of this for me, is I'm looking at what they're trying to accomplish, which is, some freaking independence, some self-sufficiency. I mean, they were independent a long time ago, but some self-sufficiency in a world where, let's be honest, China has been engaged in economic warfare for as long as I can remember in my adult life.
Absolutely.
I mean, look no further than what they're doing to attempt to destroy the automotive industry in literally every other developed nation right now.
I mean, they do this in a ton of ways too. It's not just the automotive industry. They do this in lots and lots of ways. So like waking up and finally playing ball totally makes sense to me.
Makes sense.
I just don't necessarily think this is the way to do it. And cleaving, every single other country that exists and some of your own, military bases and stuff is maybe not the way to go about it.
So here's the thing, though, is that I'm not gonna try to explain why they did that. There are some potentially valid reasons why they cast such a wide net in order to prevent pass-through shipping.
Tariff avoidance.
Whole thing, yep. G. Coons in Floatplane Chat says, at Linus, any suggestions on how to do it better? And I think you basically nailed the curse that I live with. I am smart enough to recognize the situation
and not
for what it is,
the answer.
But I am not smart enough to solve it.
Well, you're not like an economic...
And I'm not shameless enough to pretend that I know how to solve it and to offer you easy answers. So I basically kind of sit here as helpless as anyone else, while everything happens around me. I honestly, some days, envy the people who just don't really seem to understand some of the negative impacts of this and what they will potentially be, because it seems like they seem happier.
It's interesting up here too, because there's some sentiment of like, we can still get cheaper stuff, right? Like the Switch is probably not going to be exceptionally expensive up here unless they just mirror the price, which happens sometimes. It's
they could
decently
very well do.
common that Canadian pricing is just
US pricing
dollar
times the
conversion
dollar.
to US pricing. Yeah.
Yep.
But
this is unprecedented in my lifetime.
Yeah.
So how everyone's going to handle it,
we don't know.
Could be all over the map. I mean, you never know. Nintendo tomorrow could say, hey, we actually have enough Switches to start shipping these right now. We're going to keep them software locked until, after the official launch date that we announced or whatever. But yeah, we took a page out of LTT Store's book, and we were like, emergency sale, everyone buy your Switches now, and then we'll just leave them software locked until they probably won't. There's no way Nintendo would do that, but they could. Conceivably. They could conceivably do that. I mean, they've been manufacturing Switch 2s for months now, if the rumors are anything to go by. By the way, just want to remind you guys, now is the time to pick up some pre-tariff LTT Store merchandise. Free worldwide shipping on orders over $150. You're going to hear me talk about this a fair bit today because we need to move some inventory. Go, go, go.
I thought it was kind of funny. I was reading something the other day. I forget a lot of the details because I was just skimming it, but Canada and Japan are in talks about like working together for market stability. And I was like, man, like two of the it's cool. That's a good thing. We should probably do that. Kind of sucks that it's like two of the worst, like what is it, G20, whatever economies right now. We're like, yeah, let's try to not be so bad together. It's like, oh man, all right. Cool, man. Yeah, let's figure it out.
Well, we've got our overpriced housing crisis. They have their worthless countryside, can't give them away housing crisis. We've got our we had no idea what we were doing with immigration crisis. They've got their, well, we don't have immigration crisis.
We just
and
entirely forgot that
our
GDP...
birth rate sucks too.
Oh yeah, I don't know how we solve that one. We sort of just forgot that GDP per capita is supposed to go up. We just decided like, nah, we'll just leave it where it is.
brute force it with capita.
Yeah, we'll just have more.
All capita all day. Don't bother building more houses in spite of the fact that we're a global leader in supply of softwood lumber. Let's not use any of it here.
No. That all has to go away. By default. It has to go away. It can't stay. Yeah, we have our own problems.
If that was ever unclear, whenever we are pointing out issues in other countries,
we have plenty of our own.
That is not because we are not
really big ones, actually.
Acutely aware of the problems that we have here in Canada.
When your GDP per capita goes up by 0.5% over the course of 10 years, you got some things to work out.
Cobby says, please do the All Good News WAN show soon, please. I'm tired, man.
We've tried multiple times. We genuinely really tried multiple times.